The iPhone 17 Pro can take great photos with almost no effort on your part, but if you want to take things further, here's what to do. And welcome to All Things Mobile. The iPhone 17 Pro has really impressed us because it's super easy just to take great photos in almost any conditions. And because it's packed with auto features and computational photography, there's actually very little you need to do to get a good looking shot. You just point the camera in the right direction and press the button. Job's done. But I've been a professional photographer for many years, so I do know a few tricks that will help elevate your iPhone photos from being simple Instagram snaps into being award-worthy pieces of art. Don't worry if you don't have Apple's latest iPhone, as many of the tips that I'm going to be talking about today are going to be relevant if you've got an older iPhone or indeed if you've got a fairly recent Android phone. That being said, let's dive in with tip number 1. Experiment with those lenses. It's easy enough, I suppose, to stand in front of a beautiful scene and simply randomly flick through the ultra-wide, wide and zoomed in view. But it's more difficult to actually understand exactly why each lens might be better for certain conditions. To figure that out, you need to take a moment to take a look at what's important in the scene in front of you. Perhaps there's a particular subject that's surrounded by a lot of quite distracting elements. In this instance, using the telephoto zoom is a great way to isolate your subject in the frame and create a more focused composition. Take this scene for example. Shooting in the wide view fills the frame with the different floors of the shopping mall, but by going to 8x zoom, I'm able to isolate the subject and silhouette them against the bright background. It's simplified that scene and really helped the subject stand out, especially in the quite high contrast black and white mode. Or here, where instead of just capturing a wide scene with the river and the buildings, I've instead filled the frame with the windows and that blue cherry picker. Using the zoom on your phone camera is a great way to find more interesting compositions within the scene in front of you. But maybe the scene calls for a wider approach, like inside this stunning museum. I didn't want to zoom in on details here, so instead, going ultra wide really emphasized the leading lines of the architecture. It's not always going to be obvious which lens is going to be best for each scene, so my advice is to try each one of them out and pay attention to how the different elements in the scene are arranged in different views. But you also need to concentrate on your composition. While clever editing can help you adjust the colors and the exposure in an image, there's very little you can do to save poor composition. But good composition can be one of the key things that separates a good photo from the masses, so it is well worth paying attention to. There are plenty of basic principles like try and keep your horizon line straight or don't chop the top of someone's head off when you're taking their portrait, but once you've got the basics down, it becomes a lot more fun to experiment. The photographic rule of thirds suggests that images look better when the elements within it are all lined up in the third sections of the frame. It's why I always shoot using the rule of thirds overlay on the screen when I'm taking my photos, and I recommend you do the same. I also love looking for leading lines, just like in this scene, where I put the camera low to the ground to emphasize the lines of the road markings and paving stones leading the viewer's eye toward that building in the background. The vibrant leaves are just a nice bonus. There are so many ways that you can compose an image, and the joy of being a photographer comes in learning those rules and then learning how to break them. In my regular photography, I love using negative space to emphasize the isolation of my subject or intentionally putting them off to one side to create a sense of imbalance. So don't be afraid to put your phone in odd positions and look for those quirky angles. Next up, consider the time of day. As photographers, there are many things that we can control in our image taking, such as the lens choice we use, the settings, or the colors, but factors like the time of day or the weather remain, sadly, a bit more out of our control. Photographers famously love sunrise and sunset. That's because the sun is low in the sky, casting these long, deep shadows across the landscape in front of you, and, if you're very lucky, you'll get some nice lovely colours in the sky as well. Some scenes then will look better at either sunrise or sunset, so it's worth doing a little bit of research on your particular location before you turn up. But it's also worth revisiting that location at different times of day to see how it looks under different conditions. And maybe that means getting up a little bit early on your holiday in order to get to a location for sunrise, and then maybe you even time it so you can swing back there for sunset. And while many photographers do hate harsh midday lighting when the sun is right overhead, but it can also create some nice harsh lighting contrast but it can produce great shadows and contrast in urban areas, which can be especially effective for street photography. And don't think that beautiful photography requires a beautiful blue sky either. A rainy day can often mean moody clouds and dramatic lighting, while a rain-soaked street will be great for reflecting all of those lights of the city, especially at nighttime. And remember, the iPhone 17 Pro is IP68 rated for water resistance, so there's no harm in taking photos in the rain. Speaking of nighttime, don't be afraid of the dark. A few years ago, phones used to be basically useless once the sun went down, but recent advancements in sensors and computational photography means that modern phones like the iPhone 17 Pro can take beautiful, sharp images even at night. But before you head off to the darkest part of the forest with your phone in hand, remember that you do still need some light for your photos. So think instead about city scenes with car headlights or vibrant shop window displays or even some festive decorations in the city. These can all be superb fodder for nighttime photos, so do make sure you've got your phone ready to go next time you're wandering around town at night. Next, learn to take control. While the iPhone is great at automatically using its settings to take what it thinks is a correct image, what that really means is that it's working very hard to try and balance all the tones in the scene to avoid having deep shadows or bright highlights. And sometimes that might be exactly what you want, but sometimes the drama in a scene actually comes from having those deep tones. Some of my favourite images rely on intentionally underexposing the shot to create a low-key image with deep shadows and the subject just being picked out by the highlights. And you can do that on your phone too, like here when my cat was bathed in sunlight. By default, the phone wanted to keep the background just as bright as my cat, so I had to take control by tapping on him and simply pulling down the exposure slider so that the background fell to darkness. A quick black and white conversion, and suddenly I had a really dramatic shot. But I could only get it by overriding what the iPhone thought was best. So don't be afraid of taking control. Remember, you are the photographer, you are in charge. Finally, add some flair with editing. While the iPhone can take great looking natural images straight out of camera, for me that's only part of the story. What I want to do is take my images further with some careful adjustments to the exposure and the colours to give each shot my own look. I do most of my photo editing in Adobe Lightroom on the iPhone. It gives professional, granular control over your exposure and your colours, but I do also love using Darkroom on the iPhone, which has a huge variety of filmic styles you can choose from, while Google Snapseed is a great free option on both iOS and Android. I don't like to go wild with my editing. I prefer a lighter touch, just giving things a little bit of a tweak to help them look their best. I might also play with some punchy black and white looks. Editing apps like these are a great way of adding your own stamp to your photos. And the best part is, it doesn't destroy your original image, so you can play around with those sliders to your heart's content, and if you don't like the result, you just go back to the start. Apple's ProRAW image format does give more flexibility in the editing stage, so if you're shooting for more artistic purposes and you know that you're going to want to do some editing later on, I definitely recommend always shooting in ProRAW. That said, Apple's photographic styles are a great way to add some extra color toning to your images, especially if you can't really be bothered with editing later on. You can choose a variety of looks and customize the tones in each one, which is a great way of warming up a cool scene or even going for a nice monochrome look. And helpfully, you can actually take the photo with the style already applied, and you can even change it up after you've taken the photo if you actually wanted to try something else. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to edit a photo, it's entirely down to what you think looks good. Well, that brings me to an end of my tips for iPhone photography, but remember, the best thing you can do to improve your shots with any camera is simply to get out there and practice. If you've enjoyed this video, then please make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below and check out the video description for a lot more information.